and slowly inhale it, get it into the whole lung system, and oregano will deter the pathogenic wrong bacteria that are in that environment.
I've heard oregano oil also works for ear infections.
Yeah, so does garlic oil. Very
Really?
powerful. Yeah.
Oh, I need to look into this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, also, for you over here, I actually mean...
You know, they're located, and we're just learning a lot of this. So we've learned that we call what's called a CB1 and a CB2 receptor system. Some of the researchers are saying there might be a third receptor system or a tertiary uptake system, because CBG, we don't quite understand how it works, but what it does. And CBG is really a cool cannabinoid, because when the plant is growing, the flower, the base cannabinoid is always CBG. Yeah. And then CBG turns into THC or CBD or whatever the genetics allow it to express.
So what is it, like the stem cell?
And there's a variety that we grow called stem cell, just because that is the understanding of the plant. And if you really understand it, it's the stem cell of all cannabinoids.
That's very, what?
Yes. And, there's also in the plant form, every cannabinoid has an A after it. CBGA. When it's decarbed, the A drops off and it's CBG. They both affect the human system differently. Matter of fact, CBGA was effective in inhibiting the COVID virus, and that was the one, as opposed to CBG. CBGA is a more effective one. That was what we had found. That's what some of the research showed. Okay. But again, because it's not funded research, a lot of the times when people post stuff, because of the anti-vaccine programs and everything, a lot of this research was taken away. I posted a reference to an article about CBGA, and instantly my account got restricted till I took it off. Huh. Yeah. So this is really new stuff, but this is how the body works. It's simple. It's not that complicated. And what happens is that
you got the whole thing.
If the microbiome isn't doing the right thing, then we have this secondary system. So what the body does is, when the body senses a deficiency in one of those systems. So let's say we have here, and if you like,
heads in frame.
Want to see something a little bigger yet? I got these in one.
Another one.
I got one bigger size. Let me get that.
I'm learning a lot right now. It's still rolling, right? Good? Yeah. All right. Maybe auto looks a little bit better. Last log footage was a little light. But when we really sit down, just trying to get, that's much better.
So here, this is a bigger way to see it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So,
wow.
When one of these systems is not operating properly, then the body senses that this system is not operating. That's what the brain does. It's kind of like, the way I describe it, is that it's decentralized computing. Instead of the brain taking care of everything, the brain just senses something is out of whack and then produces what we call an endocannabinoid, which the body produces these chemicals that hit like a lock and key to the specific receptor it's trying to hit. So if it's putting a endocannabinoid to help with your immune system, it's not going to hit the one for your reproductive system, because it's a lock and key. It's very designated. The phytocannabinoids from the cannabis plant hit exactly the same receptor system in the human body. That's what we're doing.
Dude.
Now, if the human body, let's say something is out of whack, if some system is not operating properly, if we don't correct it by using the phytocannabinoids or the endocannabinoid system for the body to do it on its own, then we get a symptom. And then modern medicine treats the symptom, but it doesn't fix the cause. It's like plugging a dam but not lowering the level of the water. There's still too much pressure. Something has got to give somewhere else. And it really boils down to the microbiome, because that was the way that nature designed us, was to have everything. If we fed these because we co-evolved with them.
Yep.
If we didn't have them, we wouldn't even exist. The fact that the fungus came in, the mycelium came into our human system, it regulates the energy to every single cell in our body. And as we grow older, that organism grows older. Mm-hmm. That's where red light therapy is now, and cold plunges. Mm-hmm. What that does is that shocks, it stresses the mycelium structure in the human body, and all of a sudden it causes it to start to regenerate. Mm-hmm. So that's where red light therapy is now being learned as being such a powerful therapy, because we're using and stimulating our whole healing systems, our whole energy system. Yeah. That's
very interesting. Holy. Let's sit down.
Sure. Kind of threw a lot at you.
This is extremely informative. And okay, also, from everything that you were saying, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So there's the A's after all of the, what is it, THC? And
THCA.
THCA. I was wondering what the difference of regular THC and THCA is, because there was a big craze about THCA in the last year and a half.
So here's the problem, is that when the legislators did the hemp bill, they didn't understand the industry. Or maybe they did, and they left a loophole that's making billions of dollars, because THCA is not regulated. It's regulated under the hemp bill.
Yeah.
THC Delta 9 is regulated by the federal government. Mm-hmm. You can't have more than 3/10 Delta 9 THC.
Yeah.
When you grow it in plant form, I can show you a lab report. All of my labs show THCA in it. When you light it up in a joint, it turns into THC. It becomes psychotropic. Psychotropic is the term. Because the law says that THC without the A is what's regulated, they're shipping THCA across state lines and sending it to home delivery to people and saying it has less than 3/10 THC, but it has THCA in it. Mm-hmm. And that's how the law is being abused, and that's what's causing all the controversy.
Okay.
So if you took THCA, mm-hmm. I could tell you about some researchers that use THCA. They had a vial of it on their bed, and they take it every single day. They would take some, or at night they would take it, because it has very powerful anti-inflammatory, very powerful anti-cancer. It hits those receptors, causes the body to work optimally in those areas. Mm-hmm. But it's non-psychotropic. Psychotropic is what makes us high. Mm-hmm. When THC hits your receptor for your conscious mind, it hits your receptor for your perception of reality and time. Mm-hmm. That's what called being high is. Mm-hmm. So if my reality, let's say, is one of a lot of pain, I hit my receptors for my perception of that reality. It could be one of no pain now. Mm-hmm. And how can that be? Let's say somebody is hurt and I'm in pain, but all of a sudden they need my help. I'm able to shift my pain and go help them. How is that? Mental shift. Mm-hmm. My reality is now that I'm needed, and it's no longer me sitting here feeling my pain. Mm-hmm. THC does that. If, let's say, I'm trying a project and I'm working at this and I just can't figure it out, and I hit my receptor for my perception of that reality, I may look at it from a different angle, and that's how people say they get creativity when they smoke. Mm-hmm. So that's the reality of it. So these researchers had their vial, they're taking their THCA, and then one night they take it, and all of a sudden they look at each other and go, "Do you feel that?" And they said, "Yeah, something's going on. We mm-hmm. got psychotropic action." Mm-hmm. They sat down and they figured out that during the day, the sunlight would come in, hit the brown bottle, heat it up. It started to decarb the THCA, because that's how the A drops off when it gets heated.
Okay.
Now it becomes psychotropic. Now it's a different cannabinoid.
Oh. So when you heat it, the A drops off.
Yeah, that's decarbonization. Decarb.
And also something you said of changing your perception of, like, would you say that psychotropic effect of being able to change your perception is a benefit? It doesn't depend on the situation.
Well, think about this. The human body was built with that system in it.
Yeah.
The body produces a cannabinoid that hits that receptor that does that naturally. I always had the theory that we could be arrested because we got a class 1 narcotic factory inside the human body producing a chemical that emulates THC. Because that's what THC hits, is the receptor that the body has there for that reason. So yeah, I think it's part of the human system that's what gives us the ability to look at things differently. That receptor is there and it's being used internally, and we're just exercising it with an external dose of the same phytocannabinoid as opposed to an endocannabinoid.
So once again on the phytocannabinoids, explain the difference to me.
So endo means inside body.
Okay.
Think of it that way. Produced by the body. Body manufactures it. The body is a self-sufficient superorganism. Instead of this brain trying to control every single system, my understanding of observing things is that the body senses a deficiency in a system, and we produce an endocannabinoid to stimulate that system, because the system has its own inherent knowledge as to how to operate properly. It just needs something to govern it. And that's the way that nature designed us, to govern it that way. The phytocannabinoids are just stimulating it. So when people come in and let's say they're using CBD and they find something that really hits their receptors and it's working, and they go, this is great, now I'm going to need this for the rest of my life. Am I going to be able to get it? And I go, no. Remember, the body should be doing this on its own. What we're trying to do is we're trying to goose it to get back to a state of balance and then back down so that the body can do it on its own. And maybe what we need to do is look, are you getting enough omega-3 oils in your diet to produce the base oils for your endocannabinoid system? Maybe that's the simple issue. There's not enough raw material for the body to produce it. You know, you need to just become aware. Awareness, that's the key. You know, we kind of grew up and we didn't know a lot about how the body worked. You know, I remember when I was a kid, you know, I took a look at an apple and I wanted to know how come it looked like it did when it went in the toilet and the apple was here. And they said, well, you got acid in your stomach. And I knew acid destroyed stuff, and that's all we knew. We didn't know about microbes back then. So, and we didn't know anything about the endocannabinoid system. That wasn't discovered till the late 1980s, because a scientist in Israel was trying to understand what THC does. All of a sudden, he discovered, holy shit, not only do we got a THC receptor, we got all these other receptors, and they're like blown away. And when I learned about it, it was like, it made so much sense, because now I can understand how this human body works. It's not that complicated, but we didn't know. Now we're understanding, and it's miraculous that nature is just so beautiful. Every single mammal is built this way. And you know, so it's kind of cool that now we're finally learning. And that's my mission, is to try to explain what I've been able to observe is the simplicity of human health, the simplicity of balance and being in the present moment, because I don't see a lot of people enjoying life today. I don't see a lot of people being content and being in the present moment. And it's the only thing real in our lives. Everything else is just a neurological pathway of thinking about what the future might be or could be, or a reflection on the past of what happened yesterday or 10 minutes ago or 2 years ago. The only thing real is the present moment. And if we didn't have the proper, and obviously diets are really screwed up, so the microbes are not being fed. So the microbes don't produce the chemicals that allow us to even be there. And some of the practices that are helping are meditation, you know, yoga, using cannabis, using CBDs. And cannabis is easy to feel the THC effect. But people aren't aware of what the other ones do, because they're not as obvious as the psychotropic effect of your perception of reality. Instead, you might feel normal. And you might just enjoy normalness, but not realize that you weren't normal before. So, and it's just beautiful when we start to realize that we can now push our buttons. we can now understand more of what the human capacity really is.
So we are here with
Tom SZULIST, Singer Farm Naturals and Innocence Cannabis.
Beautiful. You've been giving us a lot of information. Dude, you're a wealth of knowledge. Like, I swear. Having the first conversation I had with you, I learned a lot, and I was primed for a lot of different questions that I had. And I don't know, I think this guy right here, if you are interested in the medicinal benefits of cannabis, this is a man to reference. You know, you are saying a lot of the pertinent things for people who consume cannabis or even interested in consuming cannabis, and also just who want to be healthy in their life in general. You're talking about the herbs you might use, your spices you might use, your microbiomes inside your bodies. My stomach is going crazy right now because I had some gas station coffee. Probably a bad idea. Definitely very acidic in there. But you know, this is important stuff that people need to hear. So I'm very thankful to have you here, or for me to be here. You have me here.
Well, thanks for coming, because I think this message is important for me to get out, because my whole life I wanted to know how the human body works. And you know, and I was gifted with a photographic memory, and you know, I was a stockbroker. I was an investment banker for 29 years, and I realized it was a waste of my talents. So I got into farming because I always had a passion with that, and then, you know, I took a journey, and part of it was self-imposed. I had an autoimmune disease, and the medical community wanted to shut my immune system off, and I said, no, I'm not going to take steroids. So I took a deep dive, and I started to understand how the body works. And then it became very applicable to my children, because I have twin boys, and they're in their 20s, and they're dealing with what a lot of our society is dealing with: anxiety, fear, you know, not wanting to go in public sometimes. And I didn't understand it because I don't feel that way. So in taking a deep dive, I started to learn about the microbiome, because they grew up with tons of antibiotics, and there was no mindfulness about this whole beautiful system we should have inside of us. So I started to make cultures of probiotics into yogurts and put them back into their tube. I call it the tube. And after about 3 months of doing smoothies with different yogurts and reimpregnating the proper bacteria, it changed their personalities, where all of a sudden the anxiety started to go away. Because it's very simple. The only way that we react in any given moment is the net sum of the neurological chemicals in our brain at that particular moment. So if you have very few dopamine and serotonin chemicals popping around in your brain and something happens, it's the end of the world. Whereas if I've got tons of serotonin and dopamine and something happens, it's like no big deal. I can solve that and go on. That's the reality of what makes us react the way we do. So how did I change that? I realized that some of these colonies, like El Rotari is one of them. El Rotari is just this amazing colony, and it's found even in animals, and it produces a base chemical that allows us to experience anandamide. And anandamide is a feeling we have when we're in love or we're very grateful. Every feeling we have is just a neurological chemical, and the body and the mind experience that. So when we're grateful, anandamide is what we feel. Well, there used to be... Go ahead.
I've never heard a name for the chemical reaction of feeling grateful.
It's a bliss hormone.
That's cool. What? You said anandamide. How do you spell that? Do you know?
Anandamide, A-N-A... D-I-M-A-D-E. Anandamide.
Anandamide?
Anandamide.
I'm going to pause.
It's called the bliss hormone.
I need to look this up. This is very interesting, anandamide.
And it's a very powerful hormone, and it affects all kinds of organs and tissues and everything. That's why feeling gratitude on a daily basis is very powerful for the human super organism, because we're putting chemicals that just, they're very healing, very powerful. So El Rotari, by the way, used to produce this, and when we took a couple doses of amoxicillin, which is like the go-to antibiotic when kids were sick, boom, a couple doses are gone out of the colony. They're gone forever.
Okay.
Now, introduce them right back in, what happens? The body starts producing it. Now, the secondary system, the endocannabinoid system was put there, right?
Yeah.
So there's an endocannabinoid that helps the body produce anandamide, but we also have a cannabinoid called CBG that helps the body produce anandamide.
Okay.
So remember, I told you nature gave us a couple different ways to be safe.
Yeah.
If we had the right gut, we could really be producing it. If we don't, the endocannabinoid system brings us back into a state of homeostasis and being able to feel that, which is important.
Whoa. So it is like, so what is it? The G.
CBG.
CBG is actually like, it's a stem cell. It's like a stem cell of the of cannabis, but also it can be used as a kind of like a stemzoid for the endocrine system for us?
Think of it this way. So we call it the stem cell of all cannabinoids, and there's actually GTR Seeds, which is a company out of Washington that I get a lot of my genetics from.
Yeah.
They name a variety called stem cell, which is CBG.
Okay.
So what happens is when the cannabis plant is growing and the flower starts to develop, the base cannabinoid is CBG, and then it turns into whatever the genetics of the plant eventually tell it to turn into CBD, THC, CBDV, THCV, any one of those 140 some cannabinoids, okay? But it starts out here. We've now been able to not only harvest it from harvesting early flowers, but instead we've now been able to get a recessive gene so it doesn't mature and we get high doses in a plant. So now we can have that extract. And when we use that and we hit our body system, it allows us to feel that way, which is where some people allow that to have focus. So CBG allows you to have focus. Why? When you're trying to focus on something and all of a sudden you come up with an obstacle, if you have CBG in there, you're less likely to get derailed and let it take you and get you upset. Because CBG is producing anandamide, you're feeling grateful, you're feeling good, you're feeling groovy, you're doing what you want to, you're accomplishing things. The CBD is keeping you in the present moment, so you're not drifting off in your thoughts about what happened yesterday with your wife or your husband or the car in front of you on the way to work. All that stuff is just neurological pathways. It allows focus. And boom, you're able to get stuff done.
Yo, are the audio levels coming through on the camera? They are? Sorry, it's
okay.
I got a little paranoid. I was like, there's no way we're missing any of this. Absolutely
Paranoid.
Not. Yes.
People smoke THC and they get paranoid, right?
Yep, I might be one of those people.
So, take a variety that has more CBD in it, because CBD puts you in the present moment, and in the present moment, everything is great, and you can't be paranoid, because paranoia comes from thinking in your head about what isn't real. The only thing real is the present moment. Paranoia comes about thinking the stuff in your head that is either past or potentially future.
Or something that isn't present.
Exactly. Exactly.
Huh. What about anxiety?
Anxiety?
Yeah.
Usually fear of the future, perceived. Again, not in the present moment. Not enjoying what's in front of the eyes, what's in front of the nose, what you're touching, what you're sensing. Instead, your focus is in your head somewhere. It's somewhere in the future. It's somewhere in the past. It's somewhere trying to figure stuff out. It's not here. And when we're truly present here, then a lot of times the answers come to what you're encountering in your day because you're present. Or the opportunity comes and you see it because you're not here missing it. It's the difference of reality.
How did you meet Sterling?
Sterling, my boys know him.
Yeah?
And I think he worked for me, actually, when he was in high school. He worked here on the farm for a little while.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, very good. Very intelligent guy.
He told me that you were like one of the coolest people ever. So I was like, I gotta meet this guy for sure. Just coming from him, he's definitely we have very good conversation when we talk. It might be brief, but since we don't hang out like that, he's got, you know, his girlfriend and his fur babies. He's got his baby dogs now, so he's busy. But, you know, I asked who I could interview, and he said, definitely Tom.
Cool.
It's cool, right?
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah.
And then I have some other questions as well.
Sure.
You kind of answered. Well, how long have you been in this business now?
So,
and what brought you to this point? I mean, you kind of described it, but
yeah. So I left the investment banking business, and I dealt with small companies. So I would deal with companies that I would end up holding 3 or 4 years. I would go visit the company. I would know management. You know, I did background checks on CEOs to make sure that they were honest. Mm-hmm. You know, but I just found that making money and applying all my talents to making money wasn't a purpose in life. It was an empty life. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to touch lives and understand things. And that's what I got into farming, and I started doing garlic and understanding the human connection. Then the hemp law passed in 2018. And a friend called me and said, hey, would you be interested in growing cannabis for me? And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, well, the hemp law passed. And I didn't realize that THC and hemp were the same. That's how naive I was and unknowledgeable. I'd used THC my whole life, and I didn't even know what it was doing to me. Matter of fact, I was taught that I was a drug addict my whole life. And I had always been health conscious, and I didn't feel that way, so I just kept it very private, but I'm sure I was judged. But I still did it. But I never grew the product because I was too fearful of being caught.
Yeah.
And
were you always in New York?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
it was a little scary before. I can't remember.
And they said you could lose the farm. I said,
yeah.
That's the last thing I wanted to do. It never happened, but it scared the fear. I was Catholic with a lot of fear, so I didn't want to mess with that. So then I started growing this plant, and it was just amazing because, you know, whenever I do something, I want to know everything about it. And a cannabis plant is really cool because the microbes are the most important part of being able to grow cannabis. Mm-hmm. The day that the seed is put into the soil mixture, I add a certain fungus called mycos because it takes 30 days, and at the end of 30 days, that mycos goes intercellular with that plant and becomes so symbiotic with it that the mycos will shoot out faster than the root will and bring back water and nutrients in exchange for carbohydrates from the plant. In other words, it's the underground Uber, it's transporting water and nutrients, and the currency is carbohydrates. And then when two of these mycelium from two different plants connect, they start to communicate to each other. When a bug bites the first plant, it immediately lets the other ones know. They know instantly because they're all connected. It's instantaneous. It's something we don't understand. Plants are so amazing that as a caretaker of the plants, when I'm walking in the field and I step on a thorn and I feel pain, they can feel that pain, and it's been recorded and documented at the exact same time that I do. That's how sensitive these plants are. So these plants are living organisms, and they're sharing knowledge about their environment. They're exchanging nutrients. If one plant has too much nitrogen, they'll give it to the other one. It's so beautiful in a field because you could tell when the mycelium connect, because you have plants of all different heights in the field. All of a sudden, usually you'll get a nice rain. The rain will cause the mycelium to really have the nice structure to expand, and everything connects up. And then the short plants catch up. Like within a week, everything is the same height. It's just miraculous. And it's really, that's how nature operates. That's how we were meant to operate. We weren't meant to operate as individual souls. We were meant to operate as a community where, you know, if we had too much, we shared. Because what's it all about? It's about the experience of the present moment, and instead we were taught to keep accumulating and accumulating for this date that'll come down the road that you'll feel this ultimate happiness that you've been waiting for your whole life and working for. And it's just this figment of thought in our head so that we become beautiful slaves to the workforce and make the economic giant the economic giant.
Mm-hmm. I'm very big on family and teamwork. I did a lot of team sports growing up. And I think that is something that is declined a little bit. The sense of community between people.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody's an individual in their own right, but the feeling of a community, the present thought that I have a community isn't there as much. It's very interesting. You can live in a village. I live in Brockport, which is like a 50-minute drive out here.
Right.
And it's a small town, but some portions of it doesn't feel like a community.
Everybody's running around,
yeah,
doing their thing, because that's kind of what's happening. And then, these things,
they
drive us
so
crazy.
Bad.
It takes our attention away. We focus on things that don't matter.
Yeah.
And that aren't real.
The people around us matter.
It does,
really.
And that's what I find. So when I looked at the cannabis business,
mm-hmm.
CBD to me is the most amazing product to be involved with as a farmer,
mm-hmm.
especially because I can deal directly with the public with what I grow. And it's already a clear path, and it's not nearly as regulated as THC. And there's 140 some cannabinoids. THC is just one of them. But THC has the power, because of its psychotropic effect, that a lot of people consume it.
Mm-hmm.
So the only reason that I got involved was that I could get a micro business license. And I can grow, and then I can process, and then I can talk with the public, the community, and explain, and also know what their needs are, so I can grow what they need in order to bring them into homeostasis and balance. Because they're part of my community. I want my community to be in a state of homeostasis. It's a beautiful way to live our life, and that's what we see as an opportunity here. So, with a micro business license, we can have events here. We've got farmland here. We're producing a lot of crops because we plan on having community meals, community get-togethers. Using this as a link to be able to bring people in and then educate them. Some people just like to use THC and get high and relax, but they're a little bit curious about what it really does. I think everybody is. What is it really doing? Am I putting drugs in my body? I became so relieved when I realized that I was not a drug addict.
Yeah.
That I was doing something that was helpful to me to function as a human being my whole life, because I was hitting a receptor that allowed me to look at life with a different perspective on reality. One that allowed me to use all this stuff that I remembered and be able to apply it without being stuck in a mold, because that's what you are when you're stuck in a mold. You don't think out of the box. And that's what THC allowed me to do that whole time. I would take a hit, and all of a sudden I came up with ideas I didn't have before, and I thought that was cool as hell. So I wonder if this works for other people that way. I know it worked for me.
Yeah, works for me.
Yeah. Your perspective of reality shifts.
I use it for working out. I understand why people would call it a performance-enhancing drug, because if you do endurance sports, it allows you to remove yourself from your physical feelings and put yourself fully in your mental space and focus on that instead, which is very interesting to me as an athlete.
So as an athlete, I did a podcast with Brian from No Wave.
Okay.
He's like their top sales guy, and he's their compliance guy. And he does podcasts because he's an athlete and he uses THC regularly.
Yeah.
Avid skier, does all these. So I made a tincture which was 50% THC and 50% CBG. And he tried that. And he goes, Tom, I have tried so many tinctures. He goes, this is the most amazing tincture. He goes, I played my best basketball. I golfed my best golf I've ever golfed. He goes, that stuff is amazing. And why? Because the CBG was able to keep him so focused with that THC that he was used to. It was a different experience than just the THC alone. Really amazing.
I'm curious as to what that feels like.
Flip your switches, baby. That's what it's about. Yeah, we're flipping switches. Yeah. We're hitting receptors, you know? all through the body. We got all these buttons, you know? All these buttons throughout the whole body. And there's more of them we don't even know about. And the cannabinoids are just clicking away. And there's like 140 of them in the entourage effect. Mm-hmm. So that's all we're doing is the body's normally producing these endocannabinoid, inside the body cannabinoids. Mm-hmm. It's producing specific ones to hit only the one that it's directed towards. So if this one is 2-AG, that only hits the key and the lock for that one particular one. AEA, different one completely. So they don't intermingle. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with the phytocannabinoids, CBG, THC, THCV, CBC, all different ones. And that's all we're doing is we're unlocking the human potential.
This is very interesting.
In both the mental and the physical. That's why we see, and people go, oh my God, that CBD oil, it's like a miracle. No, the human body is a miracle. We're just learning how to push the right buttons.
That's beautiful.
It's like having a car. You had this beautiful car. You didn't realize it, but you've been sweating inside the car because there's air conditioning, but nobody told you how to turn it on. Mm. So you're sitting here, and we're getting issues like inflammation, and we could be diminishing it by using some of the phytocannabinoids to hit our buttons, to flip our switches to regulate that system because it's not doing it properly on its own.
So what are some other things physically, I would say, in your diet that you can incorporate? We talked a little bit about the tart cherry.
So here's the key.
Yep.
Is that 95% of the American population is deficient in one form of food product, which is called fiber.
Yeah.
Real fiber. Mm-hmm. Not Metamucil or the stuff that people take in order to be regular. I'm talking about real fiber, like lentils and peas and beans. Yep. And you know the vegetables and all of that.
Kales and
exactly.
Spinaches and broccolis.
And if we were eating 28 grams for a woman per day and 32 grams for a man every day, and we used to eat 50 to 100 grams back in our evolvement as humans with the microbes, and that's when we were really super healthy and really able to have clear minds. Now, some people don't have any fiber at all in the course of a day. Mm-hmm. The fiber produces the gut wall that keeps your immune system proper, and it produces the dopamine and the serotonin in your brain. So if I don't eat the right amount of fiber, within 48 hours, my attitude starts to change, my ability to focus starts to change, because the chemistry is changing in the brain, because I'm not producing it in the tube. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. It can't be there if I don't feed it to produce it. Mm-hmm. And that's where serotonin and dopamine are lacking in people's attitudes. So what do? They go to the doctor, and the doctor goes, oh, I got a fixer for that. We'll give you Prozac. 50-some% of our population is on Prozac. What does it do? It keeps whatever serotonin or dopamine is in your brain. It doesn't let it dissolve and go out because you don't have a supply of it. Instead of fixing the cause, let's fix the symptom.
I got a question for you then. For mental health then, have you thought, are you versed in any type of effects of mental health and also your diet when it comes to mental health? Because this is specific, but I am diagnosed bipolar 1. I've been completely stable for 3 years now or whatever. I have to take medicine every single day regularly, I should say, in order to be consistent in my mood and my behavior and my thoughts. But I always thought that, there was a way to be able to control that if I was sleeping properly, eating properly, and in the correct environment, like around people who also have healthy mindsets. I want to get your opinion, not opinion, but your thoughts on that, like what you can do for your own mental health.
Fecal transplant.
Fecal transplant.
Believe it or not. Okay? It's that profound.
Yeah?
Yeah, because, or you could rebuild it yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's all, the chemistry can be in the gut. That produces what ends up in the brain. If it's deficient that you're doing something and you're using a pharmaceutical, nature gave us a way that we should be able to produce it.
Yeah.
And that's my understanding. I'm not a doctor. I always wanted to be a doctor, but it never made sense to me the way the medical industry operated.
Yeah.
Because nothing made sense to me.
It's profit-based.
Yeah. And you know, it was always these pills that they wanted to give you, but you know, a lot of it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to research and learn and, you know, and find other ways, you know, through our foods always. And then, you know, I started to grow foods. And we don't, so my view is in fecal transplants, you know, maybe I'm being a little bit, you know, extreme, but
I've heard of fecal transplants is kind of what they can do. So I'm on
they're not allowed in this country except if you have C. diff, which is a very bad disease, and there's a 95% chance you'll die with it. So what they allow is they allow fecal transplants for that.
Yeah.
Example is a woman had exactly that. She had C. diff, needed to get a fecal transplant. Her daughter said, I'll volunteer. Mom said, great. Boom. Fecal transplant. Mom is healed, gets out of the hospital. Over the course of the next 2 months, she gains 30 pounds in weight with no different change in her lifestyle whatsoever. Why? Her daughter was overweight. The colonies that cause overweight are certain colonies that once they're dominant, they take more energy out of the food than other colonies that take less energy out of the food and are less selective. So we really don't understand proper body weight because we assume that it's a human system that's not operating. It's the tube doesn't have the right colonies in it to more efficiently break down the amount of food coming in. And by getting the ones that we were really meant to have, which are the ones that consume the fiber, they're called Bacteroides versus Firmicutes. Bacteroides produce an alkaline environment in the body as opposed to acidic. It's very healthy. And serotonin, dopamine, all those things. So fiber is the key. That's the one thing. And then bringing different strains. So every day, I want to bring 1 to 2, maybe 3 living foods into my tube.
Okay.
Whether it be kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt. But I'm always bringing new microbes into my system because even if they don't take up residency, I'm going to get the benefit of all the nutraceutical chemicals that they're going to produce that are going to go into my brain just from passing through the tube.
I got a question for you. How old are you?
69.
69? You're aging gracefully, man.
Well, you know, I've understood, and I got to say, 10 years ago, I was 40 pounds overweight. My cholesterol was high. And I didn't understand how the human body worked. I thought I did, so I was eating things that I thought were good for me. But I didn't take it one step further, which is to understand the real function of this tube that goes through us. It's not for the pleasure of me going out and being able to reward myself with chicken wings or pizza or this because I need. It's a responsibility that if I feed the proper microbes, I'll be able to have a clear mind and function as a human being to the highest performance level. I mean, think about it this way. I look at it that the cannabinoids are so amazing because it's allowing people to get from below the neutral line back to the neutral line. What would this world be like if we all had the proper microbiome so that we were already operating here and then the endocannabinoid system being tweaked with the phytocannabinoids could take us to a much higher level of performance and understanding and happiness. You know, happiness is not the goal of life, it's awareness of being in the present moment. Because then it's more than happiness. It's what everything is about.
Bliss.
Yeah.
Yes. Another question. What is your favorite strain
of cannabis?
Yeah.
Depends on the mood, you know. and also, you know, doing a lot of R&D on the crop. I mean, it's been hard for me because my license was tied up for 13 months.
Yeah.
And New York State really botched it. So, you know, I've grown probably over 3,000 pounds of weed in the last 3 years. And I now have, you know, like 50 kilos of distillate because I had to turn it into concentrate.
Yeah.
That's enough to make, I think it's like 40,000 1-gram vape carts.
That's pretty, yep, that's pretty good.
So we have a lot of product to produce different things, but, you know, different strains of cannabis affect people differently. You can definitely feel that certain varieties will be non-energetic, be more of a body sedating.
Yeah.
Some are more energetic. The ones that I'm growing that are really exciting now have THCV in them.
What is that?
THCV, you haven't heard about it?
No.
They call it weight loss weed.
What?
They call it memory weed.
Talk to me.
So, THCV is a non-psychotropic cannabinoid.
Okay.
And it improves memory. So let's talk about memory. What is memory? It's a neurological pathway that is formed in our brain with our journey.
THCV down.
THCV.
Do you have any of this?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we grow a product called garlic berry. Interesting history I heard is that this variety was actually found in South Africa for the slaves. They used it.
Yeah.
Because it curbs the appetite and it helps with memory.
Mm-hmm.
So now your workforce gets high and they're not going to have the munchies.
And they're going to
remember what they're doing. And interesting, I read somewhere that they've done some scans of the brain and they find that it helps reduce anxiety brain waves. So it has more of a sedating effect.
That's very
really
interesting.
Cool.
Hold on.
So kind of new, really cutting edge. And here's the thing is that it's non-psychotropic, but it's usually found with the THC varieties.
Yeah.
You can get it as an isolate, but they're making it out of CBDV.
Okay.
And it's not pure form. So what's happening in the industry is that they can manipulate different cannabinoids chemically and make them into different ones. Mm-hmm. So you could take CBD and turn it into THC. Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
Stuff is weird. Oh, yeah. You know what? I didn't even think about gene editing. I bet they've made some leaps and bounds in this is completely unrelated, but gene editing in general. Remember, it was in between 2016 and 2018, where I think it was like a big deal when CRISPR came out.
CRISPR came in, and I think so. There's a lot of. So I deal with the Crawford brothers with GTR seeds.
Okay.
And they have been, people have claimed, well, they're doing GMO, genetically modified.
Yeah.
And they straight out state we are not. Mm-hmm. So you have to kind of trust the companies you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I look at the lab reports that I get, and the lab reports are telling me that the cannabinoids that are there are in a nice array of what a plant would normally have. Mm-hmm. I think breeding is a way that they're able to get this, and focusing. These people have been focusing on CBD for years. So, but I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know what the whole effect will be on the human genome when we bring genetically modified foods in.
Yeah.
The thing that scares me most about genetically modified food and GMO in particular is that in our food system, it's used for the simple reason of convenience for farmers not to have to weed.
Yeah.
So what's happened is that Roundup is used, and they sprayed Roundup in a field and everything dies, but all of a sudden one plant had a genetic flaw that allowed it to absorb the poison and not die. So they took that genetic and they put that into the corn or the soybeans. So now you have a whole crop of soybeans out there
absorbing,
and they spray the whole thing with poison. The corn and the soybeans absorb it, but they don't die because their switch is turned off. Yeah. I used to have a saying, I continue to poison myself because it's too inconvenient to stop. And the reason I say that is that when we're eating food with mindlessness, we're eating foods that could contain high amounts of glyphosate, pesticides, anything that's not organic, you know. And I'm very particular now because I don't want to poison myself anymore. Yeah, it's inconvenient. It sucks. I just can't roll down the road and pull in when I'm hungry.
Yeah.
But it's not about me being hungry. It's about me planning to make sure these microbes are fed. And that's what I got to do. Yeah. So, you know I'm having beans and green soup this afternoon because I made 20 gallons of it in the fall and froze it. And I make sure I have it, twice a week because it's got 20 different vegetables in it that I handpicked organic and made it into a soup, and it's feeding the microbes. It's a responsibility. And then when all my responsibilities are done, if I want a little treat, I could do a little treat, like a snack or something.
What's a treat for you?
Oh, like maybe a non-dairy ice cream bar.
Yeah. That's a treat. She'd be like, "That's not a treat."
Oh, that would be a treat for me.
That's like eating a vegetable.
or maybe I'll have some popcorn that might have some fiery seasoning on it.
That's pretty okay. I could get behind that.
But it's empty calories.
Yeah.
It's more the fat, but make sure it's healthy fat. Because
Yep.
I'm not going to put an unhealthy fat if it's an omega-6. Not in my body, no way.
If it's what's an omega-6 then?
So that's like the soybean oils, all the
corn
oils, all the
vegetable oils,
the stuff that they say are the unhealthy fats that we get.
I'm a big fish guy. I'm not sure if fish is good for you right now.
Yeah, so when I do eat any kind of meat or fish, the fish I try to eat are the smallest ones, sardines.
Sardines.
Yeah, because they're so tiny. They don't have any toxins in them.
We tried that before. Sardines are pretty good. They taste like tuna.
Yeah, exactly.
Bit, right?
Yeah, and high on omega-3s, loaded. And get them in olive oil.
What about fish eggs with caviar?
Never had them. Yeah, never appealed to me.
Dude, it's cheap, and you can get it from Wegmans. You can get the black cod ones, the tiny little ones.
I guess.
It's just like super salty. That's about it. It just tastes like salty salt fish.
I guess there's certain microbes that might really like that, but I don't know if they'd be that.
I don't know.
To me, it's all about who I'm feeding.
Yeah.
It was kind of neat because I went to Costa Rica on a trip, and we're going through the jungle, and the guy stops and he's showing us all these termites, and he says, what we do is we actually eat a couple of the termites. And what do you mean? And he said, we found out that they have an amazing amount of probiotics in them that are super healthy for the human system.
Huh?
Yeah. So, of course, I took my finger and grabbed the cup, ate it right away.
I could not do that. I hate ants. Termites that's something else.
Yeah, but
how would it taste?
There's no taste to it. I mean, it's like taking a probiotic pill.
Yeah, true.
And then when I travel, I try to eat the fermented foods from the region because there's different bacteria in there. Yeah. Yeah, we're superorganisms, man. We have more DNA. You're talking to more DNA. I'm only 1% human. 99% DNA is microbes in and on me.
I always used to think about this as well. Might be a little heady, but so if I can think with my mind and tell my hands to move like this, if I make enough concerted effort, I could, to some degree, have an effect on my microbiome. And let's say my skin, if I'm having a skin issue, if I consciously put an effort in my mind towards healing something, that I could have some type of effect on that. And I almost genuinely believe that.
So it is true.
Yeah.
Here's why it's true. Is that you are a superorganism. So your state of mind and put you in either an acceptance or defensive mode. So if you're in acceptance mode, then all of a sudden your microbiome is getting the signal that it's okay to go and do their thing because everything is safe. Mm-hmm. If you're in an upset mode, defensive mode, the microbiome will know that, and the microbes will actually hold back from doing their thing because you're telling them that you're very fearful and that something bad is going to happen. They better save their energy. Mm-hmm. And the pathogenics, the ones that are the bad guys, they sense that environment and they explode because they take advantage of your being compromised because of your thoughts.
Your weakness.
Yeah. Excuse me, 1 second.
You're good.
Kevin, how are you, buddy?
It's like having a poltergeist.
Good.
They sense your
Sorry, I
weakness
got tied up. I
and
got a podcast I'm doing
okay.
with a guy. So where I'm thinking we're going to do it is on
Grab
this
one
side
of
of all the potatoes. Okay. Why don't you go out there and just take a look at things? I had to turn the water on for the regular potatoes.
Okay.
They can go, or tomatoes, they can go off now because it's been on for about an hour. See how they look.
Dude, we're getting some THC.
And then check out the sweet potatoes. Make sure none of them are under the tarp. I pulled a couple out. Make sure they're all out. They're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
You can turn a little water on for them.
There's the
'cause I
garlic
gave them just
berry.
about 10 minutes.
It is
but they
very
can use a
low
little bit.
THC.
I get another half hour or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Check her out, buddy.
All right. Cool.
Thanks.
It's 8 grams though. You can get an 8 for 25.
I'm back. Sorry.
You're good. Sorry, looking at your menu over here.
Yeah. So the nice part about a micro business license, an example is we have 1/8 of an ounce varieties of our cannabis, and whatever the THC level is, we sell it all for the same price. Huh. And we also wholesale.
That's affordable.
We wholesale it for $20, which means that the dispensaries are selling that for $40.
Yeah. The dispensary in Brockwood is doing crazy work right now.
Yeah. So our view is that we want to make it affordable. And then our 8 grams, we have a heavy hitter that we call the 8 gram. It's more than a quarter ounce. Quarter is 7 grams. We do it 8 for $50. So people can buy 3 of those and they're getting for $150, 24 grams, just under an ounce.
Wow.
Isn't that affordable? I mean, that's what it should be.
That is extremely affordable.
Yeah.
And it's clean.
Now, look at the bottom one there. Tropicolada.
What is that? It's got everything.
That's got THC, THCV, CBD, and CBDV in equal amounts.
What?
All in one flower.
How? So what is that compared to garlic berry?
Garlic berry is just THC and THCV.
So then what would be the different effects?
Different receptors. CBDV is really an interesting cannabinoid because it's twice as effective as regular CBD for seizures.
Okay.
So let's think about what a seizure is. A seizure is a imbalance between the electrical to mechanical interface of the human body causing a movement that's uncontrollable.
Okay.
CBD allows homeostasis and calms that seizure down. That's what we knew from Charlotte's Web. Mm-hmm. CBDV is twice as effective at stopping seizures, which tells me that's hitting the receptor for the electrical to mechanical interface, which is that whole interface that we have. So people that have things like, let's say, neuropathy, neurological pain, or even a Parkinson's, we've been able to see where they take CBDV and they're able to bring that system back into homeostasis and have control again.
Huh.
It's amazing. The human body is amazing. The buttons, we're pushing buttons. We're bringing things back into balance. That's it. It's all about balance.
Dude.
It's easy, simple, isn't it?
What is the Tropicolada? Is that a sativa, indica, or hybrid?
It is this amazing cross that the GTR guys, came up with. And, we're using it. Because it's got THC, I couldn't use it with my CBD license. This is the first time. So that one I'm going to be doing not only for smokable flower, we've got some vapes we're making out of that.
Yeah.
So people can feel the experience, see what they think. You know, a lot of people come in here and they don't necessarily want a highly intoxicating effect.
That's me.
And so an example is we have a 2 milligram gummy.
Okay.
2 milligrams daytime and 2 milligram nighttime.
Yeah.
So our nighttime gummy, what happens is there's a cannabinoid that if THC is in the sun too long, it degradates and it turns into another cannabinoid called CBN. CBN is the most used for sleep, but it doesn't seem to cause drowsiness. So what is my observation that CBN does? You know how THC kind of builds up that creativity and you start to get the mind thinking about stuff?
Yeah.
CBN kind of downregulates that area.
Huh.
And that's how you're able to sleep. So you don't smoke and then all of a sudden I want to do this or that.
Yeah,
Instead, the CBN.
I smoke and I'm bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, I work for the next 2 hours.
Yeah. You get stuff done, but when it's sleepy time.
It's sleep time.
Yeah, sleep time. I'm trying to go to bed, not be up till 2 in the morning.
So 2 milligram gummy, microdose. Why? Because we just want to change the neurological balance in the brain, kind of like the way that a Prozac might do it. Well, we could do it with a 2 milligram THC and just slightly alter the neurological balance in the brain to kind of take the edge. So, like an example is my brother-in-law doesn't use THC at all. When I explain how the mind works and the endocannabinoid system, he takes a low-dose gummy, says, I didn't feel any different, but I had a hell of a good day.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
That's a reality. Yeah.
I'm about to be making some investments today.
We open at 10.
Oh, we're so close. So close. So close but so far. I actually had a couple other questions. This is kind of unrelated, but like, how was your childhood?
So, great childhood. You know, I was just gifted. So I was like in the top 1% in school in math and science. On the SATs, I scored really high. And when I went to school, it was like I just had to pay attention. And if I paid attention and I could record everything in my mind, then I could just get 100% on every test.
Yeah.
So I was like, in third grade, they gave me a fourth grade math book so I wouldn't disrupt the class because I was able to understand things so well. So it was kind of cool because I knew that I had this ability, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then when I got out of high school, I decided I was just going to work in industry. I worked at a trucking company. I did that for a while. Then I went to ECC, and I was going to go into business. And they said, instead of business, why don't you look at industrial engineering? And I said, well, what's that all about? And it was all beautiful. It was time and efficiency, motion study, how to look at a job and figure out the best way to do it. It's kind of like, you know, balancing assembly lines so that everything is balanced and, you know, kind of like, it was so natural because everything in life is supposed to be balanced. And as an engineer, you were balancing systems so everything ran smoothly. And it was a way of thinking, inventory management, quality control, you know, all of those things, time and efficiency. And then when I got out of that, I had a 2-year degree, graduated top in my class, so I got the equivalent of a 4-year engineering job with a company and was saving them a lot of money, but I wanted to do something different. So I was taking 22 credit hours back to back at UB to finish 2 years of college in 1 year. I was going to finish 15 in the summer, and I would have had my degree. And a guy was recruiting for people to become stockbrokers. And this guy was like 29. He was driving a black Porsche, and he wasn't all that sharp, but he was talking about getting tickets to go to the moon, and he had a lot of money. And I looked and I says, this guy's willing to teach me. I could do it. So I got involved with stocks, which I knew nothing of. My parents never invested. I never knew what a stock was. And it ended up the first firm I was with was a scam. But I learned, and then I started to figure it out. And I started to do really well at analyzing companies and doing it. But making money isn't a purpose in life. What is money? Money is just trying to buy happiness or trying to feel secure. You know, so then I got involved with farming, and now I'm involved with cannabis and teaching people how the human body works, which is, and I view it as the fact that, you know, I kind of take it away. It's not that I know this much, it's that I get to see what comes out of this journey, because I'm amazed at the stuff that I learn. You know, and I don't, it doesn't build up my ego, because what is an ego? It makes us think that we're not part of community, that we're better than community. You know, this stuff is being shared with me from somewhere so that I can understand it, and my purpose in nature is to share it with everybody else in the community, because that's really what we're meant to do. And that brings joy that is beyond dollars or bitcoins or cars or houses or any of that. It's connection. It's like the plant. By the way, there's one other thing that makes our cannabis different than the cannabis that you might buy that's grown indoor or from somebody who doesn't understand this stuff. You know how you think about, would you want to eat an animal that saw the animal before it killed, and it understands what's going to happen next to it, and it's got all this fear going through it? You know, is that really a healthy thing to think about? Well, plants have feelings. Do you know, when I go at a plant with a pair of scissors, that plant, they can record on recordings, that plant is like off the charts. It's petrified. It had no idea what you're doing. Do you know that if you just take the time with your awareness to let the plant know what you're going to do, the plant calms right down? When these plants are harvested, it's explained to them what is happening, and that they're going to touch members of the community and touch lives. And it's proud that this is the way that they're going to be left in memory. There's a difference. At least in my world there is.
In my world there is too. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's a reality in my world, you know.
Showing respect to the things that are feeding you in your community.
And the lab reports, you know, it's so cool, because, you know, I love it when I get the samples, and the lab people, I see them socially, and they go, you know, you're like our favorite guy. We love to see what your lab reports have in them. You know, I mean, because those guys know. You know, nobody else really reads lab reports. Bud tenders don't. You know, a lot of people don't. But that's really the report card about how well I do. Is what are the minors? How much is there? And how did we get this plant to fully express what it's capable of? Because that's my job as a cultivator, is to get that plant to fully express itself and be super happy and stress-free. And how do I do that? The same way I do it with a human being. I bring all these different probiotics into the system. You know, all these different ones at different times, just constantly enhancing their own natural ability to defend themselves, to be the most they could be. Yeah.
Well, let's see where we're at here. Differences between outdoor grows and indoor grows.
Tons of energy to grow indoor.
It takes tons of energy.
I can't believe how much energy. You deserve one. As soon as a human organism decides it's going to do that, the bacteria know, and they start producing the chemical, and you start to get instant relief right away. Because you're a superorganism. They know what you're doing. They instantly know. They're controlling what you're doing. Just like the bacteria in the cannabis plant.
Candida's got me.
It's got you.
It's got me.
And you know how you get rid of it?
That sounds crazy, by the way, because Candida is what? Thrush.
You can't kill it either.
Really?
If you kill it, then it releases endotoxins, and then you've got brain fog for like weeks.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
So then how do you fight that?
With a bully.
A bully?
Espillardi.
Espillardi? Well, okay, what's
Saccharomyces
Espillardi?
boulardii.
What is that then? Explain.
Saccharomyces boulardii is this beautiful bacteria. It's in the yeast family.
Yeah.
And you can get it in a probiotic. I like to get it in a probiotic. And then I get some fresh, nice organic fruits. And get it to simmer for 20 minutes so that there's no bacteria or anything in there, and then put Espellardi in there and cover it up and just put it in an oven with a light on so it's just warm. And it multiplies, and then you take a spoonful of Espellardi every day, and Espellardi will go ahead, and they're aggressive enough that they'll kind of take and move the residents out of their homes and kind of slowly push them out.
Yeah.
And pass them through the digestive system right down into the toilet. And then Espellardi hangs around for a while, but they don't stay in residency. They're kind of nomads.
Yeah.
And they eventually leave, and then you start eating right. Don't screw up the tube again.
Where do you get the Espellardi?
No, you can buy it. And
How do you
probably on Amazon.
How do you spell Espellardi?
Boulardi, Boulardi, A-R-D-I. Boulardi. Saccharomyces boulardii. S. Boulardi.
I'm looking it up. Hold on.
Did you find it?
I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah, Saccharomyces boulardii, they come in there, and they're like the bullies.
Oh, there it is. Saccharomyces boulardii.
There you go.
Where do I get this? How did you find out about this?
Just research, man. Just read, follow podcasts. You know, podcasts like yours where people can now learn about stuff. That's what I do.
People know. Jeez, man. Oh, you get this on Amazon?
Yeah.
I'm about to get it on Amazon. Hold on.
Get your bugs on Amazon.
I'll tell you because I got problems with sugar. Me and sugar have a relationship.
Yeah, well, it's an addiction because you got to push Espellardi out. You know, have them get in there, get Candida out.
Yeah, I need to do that.
And then you'll feel much better.
Stop waking up at 3 in the morning eating spoonfuls of sugar.
You don't
That's
need
horrible. That's bad. That's bad.
Yeah. You need to be able to just be a natural rhythm, man.
Yeah. I eat pretty good regardless, though.
It's not a matter of eating, feeding microbes. Start thinking differently.
Yeah.
Start thinking. It's a responsibility. You know, it's not that you want chickpeas, it's that you need to have chickpeas.
Yep.
You need to have lentils and beans. You go to Chipotle and you order double beans and no meat and lots of onions and everything but cheese and dairy on the rest. And now you've got a huge microbiome, clean, non-GMO dish that you could feed your microbes, and there's a healthy choice on the road because it's hard to find some.
I definitely resonate with feeling what you're eating. My mom is a big proponent of salads and also hummus. She loves hummus, salads, and
chickpeas.
garlic.
However, make sure they're organic chickpeas, because chickpeas, remember I told you about glyphosate being used as a weed?
Yeah.
Killing weeds? It also is a desiccant. It pulls all the moisture out of something. So they use it to dry the chickpeas because they dry real fast.
Oh.
And it's the most contaminated food with glyphosate of any of the foods on the list.
Chickpeas.
So you got to make sure you get organic.
Should I tell my mom that?
Definitely. Don't let her poison.
That's true.
Seriously, we don't think about it, but we're getting, you know, I continue to poison myself because it's too inconvenient to stop. How insane is that as a society we do that?
Yeah.
The wheat, you know what they do now? Normally it would take 3 weeks for the wheat to dry in the field. You spray the whole field with Roundup. In 3 days, it's all dry. They can get two crops in now.
They spray it with Roundup to dry it out?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's not meant for that, but it works. Now they can get two crops in a year. In some places, 3. But you don't have to wait, and you don't have the risk of the rain coming in the wind and knocking your wheat down while it's trying to dry. You can just spray it with Roundup and it dries quicker. But we got to be careful because Roundup has people that make sure that we don't talk about it, and it may cause your podcast to get a star of somebody coming in and trying to combat everything we're saying.
Whatever, Roundup isn't good.
You know what works? If you got to kill weeds in your driveway, don't put poison on them. Vinegar and soap.
Yep. That's what my dad used to do. We used to do lawns, and it works.
Yeah, we don't need to use poisons.
Yeah.
You know, it's everywhere. By the way, it's billions of pounds a year. It's in the air. It's in the water. It's in every human being. You can test it. You can send a hair sample in and get it tested, and they'll tell you how much is built up in your body of glyphosate. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Are you a bottled water person or a
filtered bottled
filtered? Yeah, filtered
Mountain
over
spring water or
Yep.
Berkey filter, reverse osmosis.
No,
Same with my plants.
I need to get a filter for my house.
Plants get filtered water.
Your plants drink better than I do.
Plants, you got to take care of them. You know, you can take care of yourself. My God.
Yeah.
Sacred vessel.
I need to get. I think that's. We're gonna take a trip today. We're gonna get a water filter for my mom. She needs it.
It's your responsibility, you know, because you got all these microbes, trillions of microbes that depend on you, and you haven't even acknowledged them. You ever meditate?
Yeah, actually.
The first time that I meditated and gave gratitude to the living microbes inside of me for all they've been doing for generations, and I never acknowledged them once before that point. Pretty amazing when you think about it. Mm-hmm. These organisms are trying to keep you alive every single day, and we don't even think about them. Mm-hmm. We don't even give them recognition. Yep. Don't you feel good when somebody recognizes what you've done and they thank you?
Yeah, I do
Gratitude.
wake up. I do wake up and I'm like, thank you, body, for allowing me to walk and see and hear and talk to people and breathe. I do express gratitude towards that.
Towards the microbes that are keeping you alive. The microbes that are there that are working tirelessly to keep the human system alive, because if the human body dies, they die. That's how profound it is. They are working their ass off to keep you alive. And they're living organisms. And they have feelings, they have understanding. You feel them in your gut, don't you?
They're mad at me right now for that coffee.
Yeah?
Yeah. They're like, why'd you do that?
Should have put some cannabis in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, the caffeine and the THC, when they hit the receptors, the science shows that the dopamine levels rise dramatically in your brain.
I feel like I'm familiar with these studies.
Or practices.
Yeah, practices. Yep, I've studied before.
Yeah.
I'm a big caffeine person. I do like caffeine as a drug.
So
it is a drug. But.
I do caffeine, and then I do chicory root with my coffee.
Really?
Yeah, because chicory feeds the microbiome. And has a nice flavor to it. So now I'm getting my caffeine, but I'm also doing the responsible thing and feeding certain microbes.
What about cinnamon? I've heard cinnamon's good, right?
Super for the body.
Yep.
Yeah, really good for helping blood pressure.
Yeah.
Resting glucose levels.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you hear about type 2 diabetes?
Yep. That's the acquired
You know what could eliminate
diabetes,
that?
Right?
You know what could eliminate that? Proper diet.
Yeah.
Fiber. Told you fiber? Let's say today I eat a bowl of beans. For the next 24 hours, if I had something that would spike my blood sugar, it will be lowered because of the fact of those beans lowering the glycemic load for the food for the next 24 hours. Which means it controls spikes in blood sugar, which is what diabetics have. And it's all related. If you took a look at the amount of fiber they have in their diet, it's usually very low fiber, and then they have the type 2. Increase the fiber, type 2 goes down.
That makes sense.
Microbes.
My grandma doesn't eat any vegetables.
Lentils.
Yeah.
If she eats pasta, switch it to
Pasta's
lentil
horrible for you. In my opinion, it makes me feel like trash for like the next week.
But it depends what you're eating. Are you eating wheat pasta with gluten?
Probably, yeah.
No, go to chickpea pasta.
Chickpea pasta. I didn't even know
Lentil
they made chickpea
pasta. Oh, we got it all here.
What?
Yeah.
You hear that?
Fiber. It's the magic key. It's the cheapest.
Huh.
Yeah.
Chickpea and lentil pasta.
Yeah.
Where else can you get that?
You can
anywhere,
find
basically?
it in the stores, yeah.
Yeah.
Try to get organic,
Yeah.
especially with chickpea, because of the fact that they use it as a drying agent in the agricultural industry, and it's not meant for that, but it works.
Yeah.
And the studies show, you look at the Dirty Dozen, or you look at some of the data on where glyphosate is found, and chickpeas are one of the heaviest foods because of its ability to dry.
Mm-hmm. It's so interesting.
It's tough, because we in the 1950s we had a choice to either go organic or to go with chemical based. And at the end of World War II, there was this industrial complex that was used to making chemicals. Mm-hmm. And they decided to make agriculture work that way. That's why everything's chemical based.
Doesn't that starts with an M? That
is one of the companies.
One of the company, yeah.
But all of them, the fertilizer companies.
Yeah.
I've
heard things about the seeds where they genetically modified the seeds so you can't use other seeds, or you have to like rebuy them. Like you can't.
Right. You have to buy seeds every year.
Yeah. Because they don't.
Right.
Cross or pollinate.
And if, let's say, there's a farmer here that's reusing his seeds and it gets cross-pollinated with theirs.
Yeah.
And they plant their crop, they actually sue them that they've got some of their seed that's patented.
Their genetic.
And ends
patent.
up
That's weird.
It's nuts.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's crazy.
But how could you?
Nothing makes sense. You know why?
That?
It's all about money.
Yeah.
And what's money? It's nothing real.
Yep. I work in sales. It's okay because I like the people, but I don't particularly like the job that I'm doing.
Gotta love what you're doing. And you won't have to do anything for the rest of your life. You just do what you love.
Yeah. I love this stuff, but
that's what you should do.
Yeah.
You find guys like me and we help you get the message out to as many people as we can. Mm-hmm. It's all a journey. I just want to make the journey easier for people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yep. I feel like providing a platform for each other is kind of what you got to do. Something that I've noticed, though, I will say in this specific area, I'll say Western New York as a whole has started to become knit together. Like there's connections from all the way from Buffalo to Syracuse to Albany. Now people are talking to each other and working together with a common goal and a common vision. That wasn't the same case. That happened in the last 3 or 4 years.
I think cannabis has been a big part of it.
Yeah.
There's so many people that, realize what a community thing cannabis is. Mm-hmm. They wanted to get involved with it, and it's been a struggle. So through those struggles, people have kind of banded together to kind of support each other. Mm-hmm. Because it's been tough. Like I say, my application sat on the side of a desk for 13 months because something wasn't right, and instead of fixing it, let's go to an easier one. Mm-hmm. That's insane when you had people that are working every single day trying to do a business and nobody's communicating with you.
Yeah.
But, it got me to where I am today, and I'm grateful for that. And, that's the way I look at it. Because it's all in the past.
Yeah.
It's no different than what happened, 10 years ago, mm-hmm. which is hardly even a memory. So you need to look at life that way, that whatever happened even 10 minutes ago is all in the past, no different than what happened 10 years ago. It's just a fresher neurological pathway. Mm-hmm. And if we keep going down it, it's like we don't let it become part of the past, we keep reliving it.
Yep. I always thought the thoughts or feelings with memories, and even habits, it's like a canal. Like you thinking or doing that same thing a bunch, you dug the canal out by your actions, and now your habits are the water. Now it became a habit for you. Now that's the water that's going to flow. In order to change it, you got to empty all the water out, which is all of the thoughts or patterns that you did, and then you have to fill it in with different stuff, mm-hmm. and then carve a different path.
New neurological pathway.
Yeah.
Kind of heal that one,
mm-hmm.
and go on. Mm-hmm. And that's all it is pathways in the brain.
Yep.
That's it. We're just superorganisms, and we need to understand that. If we do.
What do you look? What?
Any other questions?
One.
Yeah.
Who is a person who's been impactful in your life? Who's had a large impact in your life?
Probably my kids.
Your kids?
The most.
Yeah?
Yeah.
As a true dad would say.
My boys were adopted from Russia when they were 7 months old, twin boys. Yeah.
Wow.
They're 28 today.
Oh, we're almost like the same age. I'm 27.
Yeah, they'd be in Russia. They'd be in war right now, or probably not alive right now.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And to make their journey easier because of what our society did to their microbiome, it taught me to push myself to learn how to fix their journey so it was easier. Rebuilding their microbiomes, understanding mental balance so that they can just enjoy this life. Because they were like half the people that, you know, that walk around, you know, they got anxiety, they're not happy. They wake up and they gotta go, gotta do this, gotta do that. It's all gotta instead of, wow, what a beautiful day. Yeah, what a gift. Yeah. And the only way you get that is by changing the balance of the neurological chemicals in your brain at any given moment. And if you can't do it with diet, then you do it with getting probiotics, with using the endocannabinoid system. You know, it all comes down to the same.
What do you think? Where do you think exercise fits in?
Because exercise stimulates and changes the whole microbiome. Conditions your microbiome because it's putting you in a state of bliss, which tells the microbiome explode. The good guys, the bad guys. Oh boy, this guy's happy. We can't explode. You know, it changes your digestion, changes everything, changes your mental balance. It's beautiful. You know, we should do it. How many people do? Well, it's hard because if mentally you're not there, how can you get motivated to do something that's going to help you when you don't have the motivation to get started to begin with? And it really starts with looking at diet, because diet is the beginning of everything. You know, it's the microbes that we're feeding.
I love this message. And I think we're closing. How much time was that? That was like almost 2 hours.
Hour 45.
Yeah.
We did a long one.
That's the longest one I've done so far.
I love talking.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for talking. To be
I love
honest.
sharing. You know, I got all this stuff inside of me, and I you know, I love what I see, you know, and it just amazes me, and I like to share what I got in here with other people so they could see it, because it just makes sense. And if it doesn't, you know, I like to look at what does make sense to replace it. Because you got to have a belief system. Why not believe in something that is thoughtfully from the heart, you know? What's his journey really about?
Do you want this? I'm going to send you the link for the whole video, probably on Facebook. So if you want to repost it,
I'll do that for sure.
That would be good. I think it would be good. People are going to get a lot out of this, like legitimately.
Yeah. Cool.
And then, do you have like any other social media? Because I can, like, an Instagram or something.
Yeah. So we have Instagram.
Okay.
We have Tom Grows Innocence on Instagram.
Okay. Because if I post any things, I know I was talking about short stuff, but like I do both because I have to.
Yeah.
Grows. I'll probably add you as a collaborator on there.
Whatever you like. And then I also have a YouTube station, Singer Farm Naturals. I post a lot of videos there.
Okay, perfect.
And then Facebook, I've got Tom SZULIST as well as Singer Farm Naturals and Innocence Cannabis there.
Okay. I see you. I've got this thing on. I need to turn that off. Gosh darn phones, man. It's just stupid. The older I get, the more I'm like, dang, I wish I just like wrote people's numbers down and just called them and had a conversation. That's so much better. Working in sales definitely makes you understand a little bit more of the social dynamics of like since you interact with new people every day and you'll sit with them for an hour to 3 hours, you get to know people pretty well. And that's a interaction. That type of interaction does not happen in the wild in public anymore, where you meet somebody, you talk to them, get their phone number, and now you're friends. It's never that.
Well, that's kind of what we do here at the store. I mean, we have people come to the store and they go, do you know this is my favorite place to come? To come to our store. They just come here to just hang out and feel the energy and
I can see that. Yeah.
And look at the foods, you know, and we're creating out here, we're creating a space that people can come. I don't know if you noticed, but there's cannabis growing around the perimeter right out here.
I thought it would look like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, are they trees or is that just a post?
Because I'm a CBD farmer, I registered this as a CBD grow site for educational purposes, so that's all CBD. And we can have classes here and teach people about the plant and show them the plant, and they can hang out here. We'll have community meals, stuff like that.
This is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it's really...
This needs to be protected.
You know, if you can't find something that you really want, you just got to create it. And that's what we're doing. We're just creating a space that is different so people can see a different reality. You know, because there's a lot of people not happy in their reality. You know, you do have control over your own reality, though. You're the one person who can control the things going on. Yeah. Whether it's, you know, you can control your diet, you can control, like, when you get up, you can control your habits. Sometimes it's challenging. I don't want to say difficult, but challenging to do it. But you do have that control. Discipline.
Huh?
I hit the sensor and I thought it turned on.
Oh, it's on though? How did it not overheat? It was the screen. I moved the screen and it worked.
There you go.
Thanks, gangster. But
you got it back up?
Huh?
You got it back working?
Yeah, I mean, it was working before. It was working that whole time.
Perfect. So you got it all?
Yeah.
So do you edit it all?
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of editing, especially for short form stuff, and then I do music videos occasionally.
Use AI at all with it?
Yeah, it's a necessary thing now. Some of it does remove the personality from certain things, because it'll find moments. It can create clips from a long form piece of thing. So if I have an hour and a half,
which one
2
are you
hours,
using?
I use CapCut.
Yeah, I can't remember which one we're using. So what I did is I hired a guy, Steve Rosenthal, and the first year of cannabis, I had him record. I've got like 9 hours of me in the field talking about how the brain works, and how cannabis works, and how the plants grow. Yeah. And we've got all this raw footage. And what I'm thinking about doing is taking an AI bot and having it go through and understand everything and become the AI bot of me.
Yeah? Oh, you're going to have you as an AI, is what you're saying?
So in other words, you make an AI bot. You can train a bot.
Yeah.
So if I take the bot and I have 7 hours of video of me talking with all of my understanding, then the bot is going to have all of that intelligence. Yeah. So that when people want to know something, then they can, instead of getting me, the bot on the website could answer.
That's cool. Wow, dude.
That's what I'm thinking would be the next step. Because I think AI is cool as hell, but
the use case for it's funny.
It's going to be crazy down the road, because it's nasty what could happen.
Yeah, it could get real bad, unfortunately.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, it kind of is in the job market, because it is eliminating a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. Hey, Jarrison, how are you?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Well, looks like our interview's over.
Yep.
Yeah.
We did the whole dang thing.
The whole thing. Thanks so much for coming out here.
Thank you for having me. Seriously.
My pleasure.
I want to buy something from you.
Yeah. I don't sell it. My guy will, though.
Okay. That's okay. As long as I'm contributing to the cause.
And I was going to get you coffee, but instead, do you like green tea?
Yeah, I love green tea.
Because green tea with some ginkgo in there, it's one of my favorite drinks. And it's good for your microbiome.
I want it.
You got it. I got you one.
I need it.
Would you like one also?
I'm okay.
All right.